We see the poll question. Ooh, it's already shifted. Okay, some of you have been online voting already. You can play the QR code. Just take your smartphone, point it at that little squiggly thing underneath the Hearthside Bank logo. And the question, Vols are 6-2 with 4 games left. How will they finish? When I came in here this morning, it said 8-4, so it shifted a little bit. I want to know what you think. The majority right now says 9-3. Tennessee would go 3-1 from this point out. In the majority's opinion, 39%. Oh, that's a plurality? How do you look at that? I wasn't good in math. 24% of you say 10-2, and then 8-4 is 26%. Not many of you picking 7-5 at this point. All right, play along and let us know what you think. Gentlemen, I'm not just talking about one game here. I'm talking about the overall feel. Yeah. It may not just be, oh no, the yards passing per game has done this. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about looking at it. Because looking at it last night, that defense did not look good. So I'm going to start over here because you'll just influence them if I start with you guys. So I'll start with you guys. Is this defense getting worse, in your opinion?
Chuck?
Josh passes it off.
Well, the impression last night was against a Kentucky offense that doesn't really strike fear in your heart, right?
Yep.
They were without their top running back, getting about 80 yards a game.
Yeah. Who also averaged receiving yards a game.
Exactly.
He's like 95 yards a game in terms of total offense.
I mean, here's the thing with me. I think the last time I looked, you rank 110th in the country in scoring defense. You're a very poor tackling team. And you've lost your inside linebacker, Arian Carter, who's the leading tackler in the SEC. So, no, I mean, I think they are getting worse in certain key areas. And, you know, you just hope you can do better than limit the opponent to 30 points a game and outscore them.
Well, and you need guys, if you're going to be that bad at defense, you also need to continue to make big plays. And kudos to Idris Farouk last night.
Right.
That was a heck of a play.
Yeah.
That was not an easy play to make, and then to take it back to the house the way he did. But that is the 5th defensive touchdown of the year for Tennessee. We know where they rank with a lot of sacks. They've had a lot of tackles for losses. So they do make the big play. They are aggressive. They do make some big plays. They're teams that are going to go this whole season to not get 5 touchdowns on defense.
Yeah.
But overall, Chuck says they are getting worse. How do you feel about that, Josh?
Yeah, and the 5th touchdown, that's tied for the nation's lead
Yeah.
with Louisiana Tech. So they're making those big plays. Last week they gave up 2 90-plus yard drives, only 1 last night.
Hey!
So that's better. I think Tennessee's settling into what it is. It is a defense that's going to make big plays, and that can help swing a game back. If you give up yards, you give up scores. If you can then create some points or opportunities for your offense, that can make some of that up. But it's just, I think it's going to be a defense that's really frustrating because they are having the issues with getting guys to the ground, and at this point, it's asked to Josh Heupel again after the game, okay, what do you need to do to fix the tackling issues? And he comes back to fundamentals. We're having this conversation entering November.
Yeah.
So it says to me that Tennessee, it's boom or bust, it's feast or famine in what this defense is.
You talk about big plays and swing a game. Without the defense's 2 touchdowns at Mississippi State, you don't go to overtime and go back and win that game. So yeah, it's big. Will, let me before we get into the is this defense getting worse, I'll spin off something that Josh just said. Marlon Walls this week on our Saturday show. If you aren't watching our pregame show 11 o'clock on Saturdays, you need to. But Marlon pointed out, we asked him, how do you fix tackling at this point in the season? He said, well, you got to go have some serious practices. He said the problem is when you don't have depth, it's not easy to go have those kind of practices because you can get somebody hurt. So, yes, there is a fix for it. He said, I've been on a couple of those teams where you go through a tackling camp in November and you work your tails off and it's a hard-hitting practice. But you got to have depth to do it, and we don't have the depth. Your thoughts on that, and then what you think about this defense?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Marlon. I think it also is just it's in certain places and positions that I really look at it more so. So you got your cornerbacks and you got your safeties. Anytime it gets to the outside, we are not good in space. And we're not good in space because, frankly, those guys are not the best tacklers on our team. So I think it's not just, hey, do you need more tackling and that kind of thing? Because I do think what Marlon said is true. You can go out and work on tackling, but you're going to take you're going to take the chance that I'm going to lose somebody, if not more than one person, and then where am I at? What is the next guy behind him? And if you're sitting there going, well, if I lose that guy, it gets seriously downgrade, then I'm not going to take that chance. And I think they have to look and say, what are we? And right now, like I said, I think in the defensive line, you've got some linebackers that can make some plays and tackles. The problem is every team, if you look at how Alabama or anybody attacks us, how do we get the ball to the edge on this guy in space that can make a few guys, has a little side movement and wiggle? And that's what we're going to get, and that's who they're attacking. They're attacking the safeties and corners, because when those guys have to come up to support on a run play, that's where you have problems. If somebody tries to keep it between the tackles, and we got D ends and D tackles and linebackers, Kentucky had some struggles. I mean, they had a couple plays that popped a little bit, but they were getting tackles for loss on the inside. It's when you get to the edge right now, and it's just, is it tackling and ability, or is it, hey, we don't have the guys we need and the people that we need. We got one that's playing for Miami right now, and we got two guys that aren't playing at all. And I think that at the end of the day, if we have talked about the next man up, well, you have to have the next man up with that ability, and right now, I don't think you have that same level of guy that's playing back there. You don't have another first-round pick, all-SEC type player. Yeah. You're missing that, and that's where you're having
and I mean, that's also changing the whole portal thing, because there used to be a day when you could stockpile. Look at Georgia, for example. They could just stockpile talent. You can't do that anymore. And you look at, if you lose your top two corners, and you then say, well, okay, we'll go to our third corner. Well, your third corner is probably your fourth corner, because your real third corner left to go somewhere else and start in the portal. So it trickles down to where if you're playing a fourth string guy, probably would have been a fifth or sixth string guy if not for this portal back in the day.
Right.
So I think that's tough in terms of these bodies. Do you see? I mean, I think at this point the answer is obvious, but I'll let you guys tell me. You're going to have to win games 55-45 moving forward, aren't you? This last month, I know not New Mexico State, you're not going to do that, but your best odds are trying to go out there and just drag your defense across the finish line.
Well, I think Coach Heupel, he basically wants to turn it into a track meet, right? I mean, that's the feeling I had. How many times do you see Kentucky had a redshirt freshman quarterback pass for 330 yards? They had a true freshman receiver catch over 100 yards. I don't know how many times you see that happen. Sometimes, Tennessee, I mean, they didn't even have a chance. They didn't even touch them on the play, and it's a long touchdown play. So you talk missing tackles, and then sometimes you're not even in position to.
Wasn't that the one where he just kind of went down the sideline untouched?
Yeah, and then Book Carter gets burned too. But I mean, sometimes you're not even in position to make the tackle, and when you are in position to make the tackle, you don't make the tackle.
And it was crazy because that guy was getting the ball out so quick. You had guys coming back there. That if that's a traditional quarterback holding the ball, we'd had 6 sacks in that game. But he was just throwing dink and duck routes. And like I said, that's the key right now. If I'm going against us and I'm the offensive coordinator, I'm getting my best guy with the most wiggle out in space and saying, can I get him on a corner or safety? And I've got a chance to win right now. So they've got to change that and figure out something. I just don't know if you're right that you have got to say this offense has to come up with 35-plus points or we're done.
I think that's where you are. I think it's back to the 2022 season